We breaking bread, yeah. We breaking bread, yeah. We breaking bread, yeah. One conversation at a time. We breaking bread, yeah. We breaking bread, yeah. We breaking bread, yeah. One conversation at a time.
The Breaking Bread Village.
One conversation at a time.
The Breaking Bread Village.
One conversation at a time.
Hey.
I urge not to dance as long as I didn't know it was a dance.
I can see you.
I didn't know, but I wanted to dance along.
No, yes. So listen, I just wanted to just kind of like put a little thing out there that, you know, we've been taking a break a little bit from some of our online conversations this way, just because we're doing so many other things like, you know, on the ground and a little bit stuff behind the scenes. So this is really fun. I'm happy to sit here and talk with you today and just have like a casual conversation about some stuff that's been in the headlines. And I typically don't really do like headline discussions, but with my friends, we talk about it. So, hey, friends.
It's good to be back. It's good to be back. I enjoyed my last 2 times on there, and I sent it to everyone I know. Like, you got to watch this. It's hilarious.
No, I appreciate it. No, it was funny.
When we went left on Tyler Perry, I was in tears.
Yes. And you know what was so funny about that was that maybe like a week or so later, there was a whole discussion about a whole nother movie that had not so good wigs. And somebody in the comment section made a comment and said,
wigs. Absolutely horrible wigs.
They said, "Oh, is this Tyler Perry's movie?" And I laughed so hard because I thought about our conversation. So yeah.
Absolutely horrible wigs. Absolutely.
So I wanted to talk to you about this whole Joe Rogan thing. And again, you know, this is so, it's funny because like I said, I typically don't talk about things on the air because I have so many thoughts about it, right? And I have so many different directions that my mind goes in regards to different things that happen, you know, through the media, right? So I try to look at it and then I say, do I want to really talk about that? Because it's so hard, for one, if you talk about it like in the comment section, right? It's really hard to really convey your full thoughts, right? Because so I hate that. I don't try to explain anything in no comment section because it's just too much for my mind to try to, like, you know, talk to them about. But even here, it's like, you know, people take something you say and they twist and stuff. But I really wanted to pick your brain in regards to what you think about the Joe Rogan situation. Because for one, I want to say this too real quick before you say that. I've watched this podcast for years, right? Now I don't know if I've watched them like 12 years ago, 10 years ago, but for some years, right? And so seeing some of the stuff that came up, it's like, oh, I didn't know that part of it. So anyway, what's your thoughts about Joe Rogan and like everything that's going on?
Well, let me start with this. I have never watched his podcast in detail. I've seen clips over the years. I know Joe Rogan as a comedian. You know, I first saw him on news radio. That's where I knew him from. You know, I knew him as a comedian and liked him in that role. These past couple of days,
I know from the mixed martial arts arena too, like because my husband does that, like, or you know, used to be in that. So I followed him for that.
I didn't even know he did that. I remember him from Fear Factor. He was the original host.
Yes.
And so I knew him from more of a, you know, comedic background. So I remember hearing some things about him having a show on Spotify or whatever. And I thought maybe it's just, you know, the regular comedic podcast. I didn't know it was kind of like a conspiratorial deep dive. I didn't know that he was.
Wait a minute. No, he's not.
I mean, I don't know because and again, we have to take this with a grain of salt because it's how the media portrays it, even when they're portraying each other.
Ken, just let me interrupt you with this. And you are one of the people who really don't ever watch his podcast, right? So you don't really know what all kind of different stuff he covers, right?
I don't. I only have like a minimalist idea because the clips I tried to do research before we start because I don't want to be completely ill-informed.
Right.
but I guess what I'm understanding is he leans more towards the conservative of his views, and it kind of seems like he's an anti-vaxxer, which I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on YouTube. I don't want to get your
Right,
your
because they set
your
people's
your,
foot
your
down for
video
saying
pulled,
that.
but
So we'll say
yeah,
vacation. We'll say vacation. That's the key word for it. So they don't take it
he's
down.
he's anti-vacation, and that was kind of the gist of what I saw of it. But when I did some more background on this whole backlash and debacle, and I looked at what India.Arie was saying and Joni
Yeah.
Mitchell, and I can't remember the other. Is it Bob
Neil,
Dylan?
Neil Young.
Um,
Neil Young is his last name, right?
Talking about, and I saw a little bit about. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I believe it's Eek, Daniel Eek, the CEO, and
Okay.
and I looked at Joe's apology. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Spotify exists in a kind of realm of unto itself, because unlike YouTube or I don't know, Anchor or those types of streaming services, they're not beholden to advertisers. That's not
Right.
where they get their money. So if Joe says something offensive, there's no Nike or Tide or
That's gonna take
Samsung to say, hey, you gotta make him apologize, or you gotta take this down, or he's got to do something. So when the CEO basically said that, we're just going to rock with him and it is what it is, it creates an interesting moment.
Well, what he said was that
okay.
when you start, I just want to make sure we so for context.
Okay.
Listen, I have to give different perspectives, right? So what he said was that it's a slippery slope to start silencing someone and canceling someone. So they're not going to do that.
Okay.
That's what he said.
You know what's funny about that statement, though? It's a slippery slope to start canceling or censoring somebody, but it was not a slippery slope for him to just be okay with him saying the N-word.
Right, and they did, and I do want to add, they did take those shows out.
Those shows down now. But I mean, that whole You ever see the music video Freaky Friday with Chris Brown and I can't remember the white rapper's name, where he woke up and realized he could say the N-word, and so he said it about 25 times in a row. Yeah. When you look at those clips, it's kind of like that. Obviously, I understand it's spaced out. I'm sure he didn't say it all in one day.
Of course.
But he shouldn't have said it anyway. And what's funny to me about this whole thing is that I wonder how much this would be focused on his N-word usage if India.Arie hadn't brought kind of light to that, because apparently people have been looking.
But see, I have a different take on it. I really think that it's because he was speaking about being anti.
That's what I believe. That's what I believe the main backlash is, because I believe if she hadn't mentioned the N-word stuff, we never would have heard about it. I believe that he was.
But that's the thing, though. People who've been following him knows. I mean, he said stuff like that all the time. So I really think that it was something where, how, in my opinion, I believe that sometimes, like, especially when you make it to a certain level, right? I believe that the powers that be, whoever that may be, allows things to take place until you don't dance to their tune, right? Until you do something against what they feel. And I think that's what it was, because I don't really think that the powers that be are that mad that he was saying the N-word. Like, I don't think they care about that. I think they're mad because, what'd you say?
I don't think so either. I don't think so at all. I think that's not what got him in trouble. Like I said, I wonder if she hadn't brought to light, and then people started, posting on Instagram and Twitter that compilation of, N-word atrocities, that we would even hear about that. Because mainly, I think the main issue is that, I believe Joni Mitchell, when you said, not Bob Dylan, what's the other singer's name?
Neil Young?
Their reasons for removing their catalog from Spotify was his views on the C-19 anti-vacation. So I mean,
Right.
I think
But
that
just so everybody knows, anti-vacation, who's just tuning in, stands for, but we can't say that on the air because they take down the video. So,
yeah.
but yes.
So I think this is, it's, and his apology was so, I'm sorry, it was just insincere to me. It was insincere to me.
Did you watch the whole thing?
I didn't. I read it. I didn't know there was an actual video. I thought he just made a written statement, which if I were in his position, I don't even think I would have responded, because it's obvious that Spotify is not going to make him apologize. They're not going to take him down. I mean, they've invested $100 million into him. They have to have this they got to make their money back. But what stuck out to me as a statement, I'm sorry if I offended anyone. Not, I'm sorry that my actions were offensive and egregious.
But he did say that eventually. You have to listen to the whole thing. You have to listen to the whole. And I'm not, again, I'm not trying to like.
How long ago was this eventually?
Was it the same day? The apology?
No, I mean, you said he eventually said that. Was it in the same day?
I say eventually. I meant to say actually. Like he did say he was sorry for saying that word. Like he did say that. Yeah, he did say he was sorry for. Listen, the apology was probably about 5 minutes long. Okay. And again, I'm not
that too. The length, I just feel like it was just, I get the impression that his publicist was like, you got to apologize. And he was like, no, which to his credit, I remember the Dave Chappelle backlash and that. Here's the thing about, comedians, and I think at his core, he is a comedian. I don't think they should have to apologize for the stuff that they say. I mean,
right. Yeah.
Satire and comedy, I think, should be a bit on the edge. It should push the limits. So this is how I imagine this conversation with Joe. You got to apologize. I'm not apologizing. No, seriously, you got to apologize. I'm not apologizing. Seriously, you have to apologize. All right, I'm sorry. And that's basically what we get.
But isn't that? But I mean, let's be real. Isn't that with most people, or most people, especially in that position? Most times they do believe what they say. I mean, that's why they say it.
And that's
right?
why I would have rather he just not apologize. I mean,
his supporters were telling them not to. They did tell him not to.
I'd rather you don't apologize, because you're not sorry. So who's the fool in this moment? And is this more of an issue of, okay, it's February, so companies in general are, touting, bringing out the kente cloth and all of that nonsense, and Bath and Body Works is now selling watermelon lemonade candles. I mean,
okay, listen. Okay, so I have a really sincere question about what you just said, because I've been wanting to ask people this, and I know people sometimes when I ask questions, they think that it's because I'm aligned with it. I'm really curious as to the answers to some of these questions. So I asked this question to you in regards to that, because I saw people really upset about the Bath and Body Works thing, and they're putting kente cloth on the candles since they were already there. So
I'm not upset. I just find it ridiculous.
No,
I mean, who are they pandering to? Because who's that stupid?
But okay, so my question is, what do people want companies to do during Black History Month? And I ask that only because oftentimes every year I see people upset with companies that, like, because I saw one advertisement of a little child that happened to be white with a I'm black.
I saw that, and that was just ridiculous. That's almost as bad as the, listen, I get that maybe white women wear bonnets because it's silk, and everybody wants to protect their hair, but I'm pretty sure you could have found an African American woman to advertise your kente cloth bonnets. But I mean, it's February.
So answer my question. What do people want the companies to do? And I'll just ask you, what would you like companies to do during Black History Month? Because it seems like when they do things, people call it pandering. Which I get it,
because it's pandering, because they're not doing anything real. And I want to answer. And here's how I'll answer your question. Sure. Because I'm more forward thinking, I think I can see beyond that. This is pandering. It's the absolute minimum that you can do, because however much millions it took to pay an advertising company to come up with the idea of watermelon lemonade candles, and then wrap a bunch of them all throughout the United States and whatever other territories or countries they in kente cloth, they could have really donated that money to the United Negro College Fund, or to urban communities in order to help Black women open businesses, or to put into a legal fund for injustice or things like that. I mean, trying to sell me kente. First of all, I'm African American. I probably I already got kente cloth. Okay, I have an African American mother. I know all about Kwanzaa. I got this. I don't need that. But what I do need is for you, if you're serious about making an effort, do something that would cause change in my community.
So
You
is
know,
that's not called representation? We
if we're talking about representation, real representation, then why was that little red-haired boy in the "I'm Black and I'm Proud" shirt? That's not representation.
right,
Okay,
right.
if we're talking about real representation, then put some African Americans in your commercials. Show us as we are, as not stereotypes, as families. Show Black fathers working in your commercials. Show African American couples where one of the partners is not some other race. Make actual representation. Make actual change and efforts.
No, I feel you. I'm throwing out questions because this is how my brain works. But no, I totally agree with you. Of course, I mean, you know that. You know, I agree with that. I just find it very interesting because I feel like some people, no matter what companies do, because even if they give to, because I've seen people give millions of dollars to different causes, right? And people say, "Oh, well, they got millions, so they ought to be doing it anyway." And it's like, you know,
listen, I'm not concerned with the naysayers and the complainers who would never see anything as being good. But if you're realistic and if you are truly interested in the betterment of our community, then you have to be serious about what you want these companies to do in order to kind of right some of the wrongs that have been committed against our community. And it's not going to happen by selling me an "I'm Black and I'm Proud" shirt, because I'm already Black and I'm already proud.
I'm already proud. Listen,
and
okay,
I probably already own that shirt, and I bought it for a tenth of the price from the beauty supply down the street. Okay, so don't need for
which is true. And I like what Dina said. Dina said, you know, she would prefer companies to advertise Blackness all year round, and that's basically what you're talking about. I mean, you know, because it's funny because I mean, February 1st, I mean, places that you never even knew.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, you know, it's like, oh, I didn't know that you know.
It's always the lowest common denominator for me, like watermelon lemonade candles. So you're pandering to the you're including the stereotype that Black people like watermelon. You're not. You know what I would even be okay with is if you said, we are introducing the watermelon lemonade candle because after the Civil War, African Americans sold watermelons in order to provide income for their families and build their communities. And the stereotype was created by racists in order to further oppress Black people and make them seem lazy and dirty. Tell the truth. Don't just continue to perpetuate this idea that we're just sitting around spitting watermelon seeds. No, tell the truth. Like,
okay, so Ken. So I want to get back to this Joe Rogan thing, because I want to get back to this idea of people. How do I want to say it? People apologizing after the fact, right? And this almost this mindset of, oh, I didn't know we couldn't say that because you all say it. So I want to talk about that, though. I want to talk about the whole idea of, you know, us putting it into our music.
Well, here's the nullification of that ridiculous argument.
Yeah.
There's no way on earth that simply because a gay person can call themselves the F word of that slur, or a Jewish person could call themselves the K word, that slur. There's no way on earth that I could say it on national television and not be canceled before the day was out. We're going
to talk about that part of it.
We're the only community where where people are so adamant to be able to say that word. And I know I'm not a soothsayer or mind reader, but I absolutely know that if we took the N word out of all music, all media, all movies, blah, 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 people would still want to say it. So just say that. Just say you want to be able to say it. And it infuriates you that we can say it and now you can't. Because you used to be able to say it with such freedom and such vitriol. And now that you can't say it, now you're infuriated by that. Say that, because there's no way on earth that he could have got on Spotify and started calling Asian people the C word that is, a slur for Asian people, and not gotten canceled. Yeah. And I just admit it, because there's no one's fighting to say, the D word that's a slur for lesbians. But lesbians say it to themselves, and no one's saying, well, we should be able to say it, because they know if they say it, they'd be in trouble.
So what do you think the difference is?
The difference is because and here's what people who what people who try to pretend that racism doesn't exist or doesn't have lasting effects don't like to address or acknowledge. We're the only race and community of people on this earth that had to fight for the right to be human. Mm. You get that? So, I mean, you might have a group of Asians that goes past, a racist person, and they think things about them. But there's no other community on earth that had to start out with the idea that we're 3/4 of a person, or an animal, or subhuman, or less than. So I think the anger there is that racists don't believe that we enjoy the rights to be treated as human beings. So if you can say something, I should be able to say it, because I think it's the same way that it's just ridiculous. Nothing against PETA. We're a dog family, and we love dogs, but I don't know if they still do this, but there was a time where you could go to a certain PETA office and they just have stray animals coming in and out because they didn't believe in pets. They thought it was slavery. Well, if that's the case, and you think I'm on the same level, I'm talking about a racist, if that's the case and pets are slavery, then you're putting me on the same level as a puppy. And the same way you wouldn't allow your puppy to sit on your couch in some homes, you probably wouldn't allow me to say something and feel like you couldn't say it. I mean, it's just so much more in depth than just the base level of where they like to say, well, you can say it and then I should be able to say it. No, this is really about the fact that you're infuriated that I can say it and you can't say it, because I shouldn't have access to any rights that you can't.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I've been following the story with Joe, and it's really interesting because I've watched his podcast before, and again, I never watched anywhere he used that word, because those were from my understanding, because I haven't watched every episode, but from my understanding, those were from a long time ago, right? So during the period of time that I watched them, I don't recall him ever saying that, right? So my question to you is there a time limit, like, for redemption? Like, are you able to? No, I'm serious. I'm serious. I really want to ask this question, because is there a time limit for someone evolving or changing? Like, is that possible, or do we think that he just and I'm just asking your opinion, because this is how my brain works. Do we think that he grew, or was it just something that he did because I think sometimes some people, they get a little too comfortable, right, and too familiar in settings, and they think that because they're around people that look a certain way or use different verbiage, that they can too. And it's like, whoa. So, but that's why my part of it, I'm very particular about what I say around people, because I believe that we give people permission to speak or think of us a certain way, right?
Aaron, I disagree with that, because if you were an Asian woman and you were with your group of non-Asian friends, and you referred to another Asian as an Asian slur, I guarantee you they wouldn't say it. They would not. They still.
That's not my point. My point is that I'm not gonna give it. I don't care. I don't care about if they say it or don't say it. My point is,
I understand what you're saying, Aaron. Aaron, I understand what you're saying. What I'm saying is, I think people use that as an excuse, but it's just not real. It's just not.
Who uses that as an excuse? Who is they?
Racists who want to say that word. It's like,
no, I get that part. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about me. That's why I'm particular about what I give people permission to Because just like with anything, if you call yourself a certain whatever it is, word or name around someone, they feel comfortable enough to do it. So I'm saying I have responsibility in that part of it for myself, that I'm not gonna let you think that that's okay to say that around me. Now, if you say it when in my absence, that's something totally different. But I don't have people just walking up saying that to me, because I don't deal with them in that way. You get what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying, but I think it's more so. Here's the thing. I think even if you were the type to talk about yourself in that way, because of your strength and the confidence and the way you carry yourself, your carriage is so full. I still don't think anyone would say it in your presence. Like you said, they might say it.
Do you get what I'm saying though? Like we have to create our own. Like for me, like there's certain things that, like, I mean, even I wouldn't even talk about like my mother, or I don't know, my brother or a friend around certain people, because I don't want them to feel like it's okay for them to do it. So I guess for me, it's like, now when I'm with like my friends or we're just hanging out, we say all kind of stuff, right? I mean, I think that's everybody. I mean, do you agree? But I think sometimes some people get too comfortable because they feel like, oh, well, if you say, no, you can't. So, but again, I want to go back to the idea, like, do people grow, or is it something that's just kind of like the core of them? Like, do you think that, and this is all speculation, we don't know him, but I'm just saying.
I mean, yeah, we don't know, but I would never say no one can change or grow, because I hope that I'm changing and growing every day. I mean, as I get into a new chapter of life, I hope that I don't take old baggage and old hurts and old pains with you and things like that. I think completely off topic, but I mean, it's something that, you know, when we got engaged, it was very important to us to go through premarital counseling, because what we didn't want to do is bring old hurts and past relationship drama and baggage into it and destroy something new. So no, I don't think anybody can't change. It's just no way for me to be aware of that, because I don't know this person. I know a media personality, but it would be my hope that he would learn and grow. And like you said, you as a watcher never saw any of these episodes, so maybe it's possible that somebody pulled his coattails and said, "Hey, you got to do better." So it's possible.
I don't know. Yeah. You know, I don't know. Again, you know, and again, people that are watching, this is a really good friend of mine, so we talk like this. So she's not a regular guest. Where I can be argumentative. No, I'm kidding.
I think you can be argumentative with me because I am your friend.
Well, we are. No, we are. That's yeah. I'm saying my other guests, I don't try to argue with them. I try to listen more so. But we can argue. No, I'm saying
with you, I'm gonna say what I want to say.
Okay. No, but seriously, you know, I think about that. And again, this is not even trying to root for him or anything like that, because I don't really care enough about him in particular. It's just the idea behind it is that, you know, I always wonder, okay, did this person change? Did they grow? Did they say it in a malicious way? But then at the end of the day, for me, just don't say it, right? I mean, you just shouldn't say it, right? And
like I mean, but I don't know why that's such a hard thing for some people. Well, I want to be able to say it, because you just don't say it.
Right. Okay, so let's get on. What about Whoopi? So, you know, this has been really interesting. With the Whoopi thing, you know, because so let me just so Whoopi made a comment about, you know, the Jewish culture, Jewish race, and said they were race, and that the Holocaust was not about that, right? It was not about race. It was about she basically said white on white crime is basically how she said it, right? Is that it was I mean, I'm just paraphrasing, right? So she made that comment, and of course, you know, people were you are so well, that's what she said. She was like, white people hating white people, right?
It was not fair. It was not fair.
That's what she said. But she got suspended for 2 weeks, right? She issued an apology for saying it. You know, said she was wrong. She issued the apology, right? I mean, she issued the apology, and then she got suspended for 2 weeks, right, for doing that. You know, many people were outraged because we know Meghan McCain was on there for quite some time, and like 4 years, wasn't it like 4 or 5 years or something? And she said a lot.
She would say some wild stuff.
Yeah, So do you equate the two? Do you think they she said stuff on the same level as Whoopi? Do you think that Whoopi was wrong? I'm curious because I really haven't gotten a chance to speak with a lot of people about what they think. I've read about it and kind of followed it, but not really got a chance to have a dialogue.
I think it is obvious to anyone who has uh, open eyes and a brain that there are some minority groups that are just, let's just say, more respected and or feared than others. And unfortunately for Whoopi, she said something that was found to be offensive by one of those groups. I To me, it's very much reminiscent of the Kevin Hart Oscar debacle.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Where someone dug up old tweets where he was being offensive to a particular group, and they kind of just sunk his battleship.
Yeah.
Here's what's difficult for me.
Okay.
Because I don't completely understand Whoopi's entire argument. I'm not saying that's right. I just don't understand it. I don't know if she meant that to her understanding the Holocaust or the actions of the Nazis was more about eliminating what they saw as inferior, than more so than eliminating a particular group of people. And if that's what she meant, then it's more so to me. It would be more so to me a teaching moment than a suspension.
Yeah, see, I guess I didn't think, and please, if somebody is watching that happens to be Jewish or as a historian of that time, that period, or that culture, please chime in, because I'm not a pro at that, so don't hold me to everything that I'm trying to convey. But I thought she was sympathizing with them. I didn't think that she was saying it, from my interpretation, like in a wrong way. Like I didn't think she was trying to be offensive. I thought
no,
she was
I don't think she was trying to be. I think that the way she said it, I guess obviously some people took it with offense, but I don't think that's what she was saying. I just think that
because she was saying about the race thing. She said that it was not, they were not a race, and that was what people got I guess upset about, was because they do consider the Jewish culture a race of people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Hitler looked at them as, the inferior race. But I thought, again, like, I agree with you, it could have been more of a teaching thing, like, hey,
that's why I think it was more of a teaching thing, because there's different groups of Jewish people. There's Ashkenazi Jews, there might be Ethiopian Jews, and I mean they all consider themselves Jews, but they might consider themselves different race or creed, or Jewish is an interesting, when I say that term, it's interesting because you could be a religion, race, or creed of people. That word could mean so many different things to so many different people, and how they identify themselves. It's not just a religion, it's not just a race. So
it's very complex. It's very complex if you're not familiar with it, right? So, and that's the part that was so interesting to me. And like Dina said, many people think of Jews as a religion, so it is. And I did see someone, I forget the person's name, on social media, ask a question to her Jewish, friends that were on her, her page or whatever, and asked what race did they consider themselves. And it was so many different ones that chimed in and said different races. So that's the part where I'm trying to get clarity on, is what she said that was so offensive. Now, I will also say this, and this is something that I want to say. Yes, Dina, very true.
Well, wait, before you, and please don't forget your thoughts. I can hear it. What I think is interesting is, now that I think about it, I wonder if she was saying that the crimes against humanity that the Nazis committed were more so about humanity. Because I think, especially
That's
like
what
you
she was
said,
trying to say.
if you're not really well versed in the history of their crimes, you might think that. And I'm not disparaging what Jewish people went through and lost
Oh,
in
of
that
course.
time.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, they weren't just going after Jews. If you were gypsy, if you were homosexual, if you were, anything that they considered inferior, you know, you were out of here. So I think at least I hope, or I imagine, what she was trying to say is that, like I said, the complete depth of the evil was not just pointed at one group of people. I mean, they were committing atrocities just willy nilly, you know.
That's what
And
see. That's what I see. That's what I took. That's what I took from it. And that's why I like to talk to other people to see their view on what they heard and what they saw. Now, but I do want to point this out because this is something that I talked about some months ago. When it comes to, oh, we have a comment here. I don't think her comments were negating the Holocaust and tragedy of the genocide. Right, right.
Mhm.
I don't either. I don't think that that's anywhere near, because she's always kind of spoke up and like advocated for Jewish culture and Jewish people. So, but this is one thing that I talked about a couple months ago.
Let me ask you this, because I've only seen, I don't watch a lot of TV. Forgive me out
Yeah,
there in Breaking Village land. I'm not a TV. I mean, I like YouTube.
yeah.
What was Joy's reaction to her statement? Because
I thought
Joy
that
being the Jewish woman on that view, I would be interested to know what her reaction
so I remember, if I remember correctly, because I didn't really see much about what they had to say or anything like that. What I saw, because I didn't watch the whole show, I just saw when the outrage happened. I looked at the clips, of course, so that only gives you a certain type of context,
was.
right?
Yeah.
But from what I remember, and anybody can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that Joy kind of did like a look like, and I believe one of them did say something like it is a race. I think one of them did, and I don't remember which one of them said something. And again, don't quote me, but I remember somebody like kind of refuting it. But
Mhm.
then that's when she kind of stood on her thing. And I think she was trying to make the point that it was bigger than that, like it was deeper than that, but it came across, I guess, to some people as being dismissive or, kind of taken away, from what was going on. And it was that word race as opposed to, she used humanity. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? That's what she used. But I want to kind of point this out real quick, because this is what I talked about a couple months ago, and people didn't like this, but it's true. Whoopi also Whoopi also was a very big advocate for cancel culture. I mean, that's all she talked about. Like for the last 2 years, she's been talking about canceling people because, if they're anti-vacation or anti whatever, she's been, trying to cancel people. So this is what I was talking about a couple months ago in regards to when we start canceling people because of things they say, it works both ways. And I don't think people think about that sometimes. A lot of times they think about, well, it's going to cancel the person that I don't agree with. But that thing comes back around, so I think she's experiencing the very thing she's been advocating for quite some time now. So it's this
I,
idea. Yeah, go ahead.
I absolutely hate cancel culture,
Mhm.
and here's why I hate it. It's there's no rules. There's such a lawlessness. Like it's like the Wild West. You'll
Yeah,
cancel somebody, and here's the thing that nobody thinks about when you cancel a person. It's possible to say or do something and make a mistake and still redeem yourself. Like
yeah, that is true.
I should be canceled for this one moment in time where I did something stupid. How many of us would have to suffer the consequences if that
Oh
followed
my,
us in our real
oh God,
lives?
if people follow me, oh my goodness. I mean, because sometimes actually, I know for myself, like I literally have brain farts. Like my brain does weird things, and I'm very inquisitive, so I ask questions a lot. And sometimes the questions are like, well, why do you want to know that? Well, because I'm actually very curious about this. I don't know. I was made this way. I don't know how to change this or turn it off. But to some people, it's like, don't talk about that. We don't discuss that. So that can be offensive. So it's just these different things. Now, I don't want to compare that to someone being like out and out, just plain old
Well, that's different when we're talking about actual repercussions for bad actions. Like I think
Yeah,
that's when you have to start looking at intent. If there was
right.
malicious intent, if you're trying to get someone, you know, hurt or killed or cause them to lose their livelihood because of, you know, ignorance or racism or sexism or something like that, that's a lot different than me having a bad day and going on my Twitter and typing
But who
something that's
judges that though? Who judges that? Who judges that?
I don't like that we're in charge of judging it
That's
because
that's my point. Yeah, yeah.
I don't like that we're in charge of because whereas I can separate one from the other, that doesn't mean my neighbor can. You know, so we're both out here judging. Why are we judging? We're both out here judging,
Yeah.
and no one gets to come back from the. What I don't like about the judging is that they're like lifelong sentences.
Well,
Even
and
murderers
that's my.
don't always get lifelong sentences, but you're just
But then some people don't, and that's my point is that some people are allowed to say things as underneath the guise of freedom of speech, blah blah blah, da 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 da. And then some people they say one thing and it's done. So that's where I'm trying to understand, like, where does this who gets to judge who's canceled and who's not canceled?
I think the problem is that when social media and the internet exploded, there
Yeah,
was no real there was no real checks and balances in place.
right.
So it was just like I said, it was lawless. It was the Wild West. People could say and do anything, and there was no consequences to your actions. And so I think what happened is the pendulum, just swung so far right that we have to cancel everybody to protect everybody. Well, like no, but there should be definitely some entity that's there to protect people. Like if you get online and I remember I think I was watching on Netflix there. I'm not sponsored and I'm not advocating for just listen, I'm just saying okay. So called 15 Minutes of Fame,
Yeah.
where the first African American student won like class president at some university. And
Okay.
a couple of hardcore racists from like these huge white supremacy groups in the US actually went online and did like a call of action to like
Yeah.
have her house be surveilled and have people calling her. I think when you're doing stuff to cause people actual harm like that's a harm to my physical, my mental, and my emotional well-being, then there should definitely be some consequences to that.
Sure.
But if you're, getting on the internet and saying, I hate Subway sandwiches, I don't care. I'm still gonna get my cold cut trio. Like I don't
Right.
care about your opinion. That doesn't hurt Subway, and that doesn't stop people from eating there. But if
I
you
think
go,
I think you know what? Yeah, I think that when we get to a point where we can really just say some things are just racist, right? Some people are just racist. I mean, it just is what it is. And the thing is that and as long as we have people on this earth, they're going to be racist. Like it's not going to go away.
there's
But
always going to be some sort of ist, and I think what
but my
doesn't
but my point is that a lot of times we don't want to get to that core of that's
yeah,
what it actually is. We
and
want to
that's what
blanket
I
it
think
as something
that's
else.
the disservice is when people come up and say there's no such thing as racism or sexism or that I don't see color. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
That's just the long and short of it. But just because you see color doesn't always have to be a negative.
Well,
It's
it should
important that you
be.
see
That's the
me.
point.
It's
It should
important that
be.
you see me. See me in full
Exactly.
color and
Right.
understand and embrace all of my ness.
Yeah.
I think that's it's wild. It's a wild time right
So
now on
so
social
let me
media.
ask you, do you know much about the critical race theory?
Uh, Good night, Aaron. Just good night. Just good night.
Listen, because it just and I'm actually going to be talking to some people who specialize in critical race theory in about a week or so. We're going to have this conversation. But it's just been so interesting because I just saw I guess a push to end Black History Month celebration in schools because they think it's some hidden agenda to teach critical race theory.
Like, here's the thing about this critical. I just can't. I can't. I both can and can't believe that this is people taking this seriously, because here's the thing. For so many years, when it was okay to have a little blurb that said, Black people started off as slaves, and then Martin Luther King came, and now we're all better. But
and Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks said on the bus.
right,
So.
those are usually the three main points.
Yep.
But to teach the truth about it is hurtful to white children, but to perpetuate the idea that a race of people that literally came from kings, queens, mathematicians, scientists, philosophers, just sprung up as slaves one day is not detrimental to Black children? How does that work?
And that's the part that is so perplexing, right? For my brain, because it's like, because I think in Florida now, again, this is me. Listen, if anybody has Google, please look it up to make sure I'm saying the right thing. But I believe that I read in Florida, they passed a law recently, basically something to the point of, if something makes basically white people feel uncomfortable about the discussion, that is like a law where they can't do it or something. I don't know. It's just so, I'm like, is this really happening? And it's just it's been interesting to follow. I mean, it's been very interesting to follow, because, and I keep trying, I'm reaching out to people about talking about this, but no, I want to talk to people who don't believe in the critical race theory being taught. I've been reaching out because I really want to understand their viewpoint, and nobody wants to talk.
Here's the thing, that first of all, why is it critical race theory? It's just history. Nobody's making anything up. It's just history. And to put the connotation of it being critical, it is implies that if you're telling the truth of the history, that you are implying an evilness. No, the evilness is there. It's wrong to enslave people. It's wrong to rape and murder people. It's wrong to use enslaved people as alligator bait. Here's the thing. You can't be made to feel uncomfortable to be taught about the fact that slave masters would take young African American babies, young slaves, and use them to bait alligators. But it's okay for me to be uncomfortable to possibly go into a restaurant in the South and see this small statuette that shows a Black baby being used as gator bait. That still exists.
Well, I think about even, black and brown children that go to predominantly white schools, right? And every year when they teach the slavery portion, because they have this slavery portion that they teach, and that's like basically it, right? And I mean, some teachers are trying to venture out of that, but my point is that you have this 1-2, Black children that are sitting in this classroom. They talk about slavery, and kids will joke about, oh, I wish it was that time still so you could be my slave. Or they still do these exercises where it's like, if you have slaves, how would you buy them? I mean, schools are still doing that in different parts of the United States, right?
I think at least once or twice every Black History Month, they get Donkey of the Day. Some teacher has done something ridiculous. You're like, how did you think that was a good idea?
But that's my point. So it's like, again, it goes to this fragile sense of being where
it's only geared at one group. It's only geared at us.
That's my point.
Well, here's what I don't understand. Are they not going to teach about the fact that indigenous people were enslaved? Native Americans were slaves as well. Are they going to talk about the indentured servitude of Asian peoples to build the railroads in America?
Yeah.
Like, where does the uncomfortability? I don't know this word.
But that's what I'm trying to say is that, for people who are upset about the critical race theory teachings, I would respect them more if they were outraged all the time about
all the time. Like, how are we still teaching about the Trail of Tears? Right. Are we still talking about that?
And then too, I wonder if people really know what it means, if they really understand what critical, because I really don't think people understand what it means. And and that's why I said I'm gonna have some experts come on here to talk about critical race theory because I'm not an expert in it.
I got a couple of these degrees and I read a lot and I don't understand because it's just stupid. It's just stupid. It's just ridiculous.
You're saying the name of it is stupid. What are you saying?
The name and the purpose of it, because it's not even true to its own aim. We don't want to make white kids feel uncomfortable. You'd have to stop teaching history then. You got to talk about the fact that biological warfare didn't just start in modern times. When you give indigenous people blankets covered in smallpox, that's biological warfare. We're not talking about that? That's not coming up?
Yeah.
That doesn't make you feel uncomfortable?
It's just very interesting. So I'm really excited to speak to the people who, like I said, they teach it, they study it, they whatever. Because I really want to understand it more because I'm trying to really grasp what the outrage is. I believe, of course, I mean, I have a theory on what the outrage is about. But
I want to hear it. I want to hear it now. I want to hear it.
I mean, we know what it is, right? People are uncomfortable because it's truth to it, right? I mean, it's truth to it. But see, my thing is that they teach history all the time in schools, and they teach about wars, they teach about all kind of terrible things that happen to our history. So I don't know why this particular subject is so makes people so uncomfortable. Because I mean, I thought everybody was aware that there was slavery and there was different things that happened to Black and brown people. So I guess I don't understand, and that's why I want to hear from the people, because I can have my own theories and speculations, but I really want to hear from the people who are outraged about it.
I would like you to ask the experts on your show when you have the show. Ask them if the underlying issue is really that it's not that the history makes the children uncomfortable. It's the fact that there's been no restitution or restoration to the people affected by this history.
I think it's a little of both.
Where you can see there is, I mean, here's the thing, there's been reparations, and I know certain people hate that word, but there have been reparations for almost every other group or minority that has been legally affected or oppressed or denied rights by the U.S. government, except Black people. You can go back and Google it, into the millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. So is the problem that if we erase that history, then we can erase the connection between that history and the current plight of these people? And then we can just say, no, you need to pull yourself up by your bootstraps like every other minority. We're not the same. Our story and our journey is simply not the same. And I wonder, I mean, please ask them that on my behalf.
That's a good question. I was trying to, you were getting so deep. Let me see if this will play. Hold on. Oh, you were getting so deep that they added where you could put music on these things. So I was trying to find something that
I know you lying.
I was trying to find something that would have that music in the background when you were like, you were getting really deep. So I wanted to really make it real dramatic, but I failed.
Well, now I wish I could go back and say it again, because now
it would have been so.
This is why I love coming on your show. This is like she's pulling out soundtracks. It's going to be like a
for a while, but I really thought that would have been really dramatic, to have the music.
And I want all of it. I want all of it. I want a slowly waving American flag over a desolate slave field with cotton blowing through there. I want all of the dramatics in back of my thoughts.
I'm here for the dramatics. No, seriously, I do want to have those conversations. And again, because I talk to Black people all the time about this, right? I talk to, white people who agree with me or different things all the time about this, or other people, I talk to all kinds of people who believe in what I believe, right? But I really want to talk to someone about this particular topic to see what they feel. And it's so funny because the people that I've asked to come on and talk about it, or even talk to me in private, like, I don't care, we can talk in private, they are the loudest people that's been roaring about this and you know, going off about it, but they don't want to talk about it. And see, my thing is like, you know, if you truly believe in something to where you are protesting it, you know, ranting and raving all over social media, teaching your kids this, then you should be able to stand beside it to say, you know, well, this is what I feel or what I don't feel. You know what I'm saying? And that's where I'm at with it.
I wonder, and my question to you is, do you ever ask them if they're unwilling to come on and talk about it or make known their feelings? Is it because they also realize how stupid this argument is? I just wonder if in the back of their mind they realize it's ridiculous.
So that may be one part, but what I also have found with you know, talking to different people is that they probably do, some people probably do, and this is just about any topic, not just this, but they truly do believe in what they say. But most people like having that like crowd with them that's ranting with them. They're not strong enough or whatever to be able to stand on their own. And see, my thing is that when you make something so grand as this and have such a hard stance, you should be able to stand.
Be able to back that up. But what's funny about that is they have people back. They're trying to make laws, you know. So I mean, if you
that's because they have a group of people working with them, and that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, that's where people get their strength from, is that mob mentality of thinking or doing whatever. So, but I really do, and I'm putting it out there right now. I really would love to speak to someone who does not believe.
You know, and that's the thing that I mean, I would love to have someone who truly backs that whole movement to explain to me why we're picking and choosing which things make these children uncomfortable. And here's the thing. And I want to know if they've actually asked any of these children that they're protecting if this makes them feel uncomfortable. Because I get the impression that this is more so for their parents. Because I don't recall at 14 being too much concerned about, the history of America. I was more so concerned about, did I have, you know, the right gym shoes on? Was I going to get bullied? Things like that. These children.
Yeah, but let's talk about this though. When you are indoctrinated, and we all are indoctrinated with something. So I'm not just when something is planted into your head so long, you do start to believe. I mean, I've seen little children that say that, you know, the masks make them sick, or they feel like or the opposite. I mean, no, seriously. So I mean, when you are taught to believe something, and you have somebody in these echo chambers all around you constantly telling you the same thing, why wouldn't you be impacted by it? Why wouldn't you feel that way?
It's the extreme nature of it. I mean, we're talking about, okay, let's just be honest. A lot of this is coming from states where you and I both know that those books have not been updated to really include all of the atrocities that we could go into depth about. So you want to take those 3 paragraphs out? Seriously? I don't even get those 3 paragraphs. I don't even get those sorry, disgusting 3 paragraphs anymore.
Yeah.
Why though?
But you know, I really, like I said, I really would love to speak to someone about it. I think some of it is this idea that if I have to recognize that I, being like a broad, you know, if I did something to harm somebody else, and I have to actually acknowledge that, I think that's part of it too. This whole idea that if we just don't acknowledge it, then we can act like it didn't happen, even though we all know it happened. So I don't know.
I think it's that, and the like I said, it's the idea that if we can rewrite history, then we don't have to acknowledge the. I know people overuse this word, but we don't have to acknowledge the overarching privilege that we start out with. When we say things like, you should be able to do, your community should do, and this should be, it's not the same.
And we're gonna have a whole show about that, because I really do want to talk about that. And I think I'm gonna title it, but I don't have boots, because I get so sick. I think I'm gonna name it that. No, because it just becomes so much.
I mean, Aaron, you might as well call it, I don't have feet. I'm in this race with no feet.
I mean, and listen, I am not a what do they call it, like a victim bonder, you know. So I'm not one of the people that don't believe that some people don't take advantage of.
I don't like about the idea of victimizing. Some people are victims. Some people are
listen,
victims.
that's what I'm saying. That's what I was trying to say. Listen. What I'm saying is that some people do not take advantage of opportunities. We know that. We know that there have been opportunities, but we also know that some people never get those opportunities, or they start off in such a disadvantage that, I mean, it's just this, and that's the beauty of, like I said, we have this show where I'm getting a couple more people that I want to have on. But we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about critical race theory, but we're also going to talk about the history of things and how it really is. It's like it's history, but it's also present day, because it's stuff that's like still happening in like different ways, right? So where it becomes this vicious cycle of a system that people don't really want to acknowledge. So we're going to talk about that. Since it is Black History Month. No, I'm kidding. I'm being silly with you. I shouldn't have. No, seriously. But I have been working on that, and I'm being silly with you. That's so silly. But I do want to talk about that, because I think it's really important for us to talk about the systems that have been created and that are still here. And I mean, it's just a fact. Like when you look up things and you look up the numbers, it's just a fact, right? But I want someone who is a little bit more versed in the numbers, in the data, to talk about it, because I can talk about what I feel and what I see just because, I can. But I want someone who actually does that work and studies those things, to really talk about it, because it's really an interesting thing. So I'm really excited about that. But I also I really do want to talk to somebody who does not believe in critical race theory teachings. And I want to understand why, because I think it would be interesting to hear, the viewpoint, for sure. I mean,
make sure you ask how much are we getting? Because first of all, when you look at how long slavery lasted, it's got to be about half of American history. So how many pages you cutting out, and where does it stop? Because I mean, why just one bit of history?
Well, now they're taking books out of libraries. I mean, it's almost this idea, like you said, to kind of just erase things that took place throughout history. So it's just happened.
What's funny is I think your listeners, because they don't know our relationship, probably think I'm more serious than you, but I'm incredibly silly. I'm just quieter.
And I'm sillier than people think. So it is so funny, because when I am silly, people look at me like, "Oh, what's wrong with her?" I really am very silly. I take life serious, but I also try not to sometimes.
Well, what's funny to me is, with all this taking out and erasing, so is the part of history where we're going to be, is it just going to be a line that says Black people landed and made a life? Like is that the sentence? like we're not going to talk about how they got here, because we can't talk about how we got here, because that would make people uncomfortable. So they landed here, and they all moved to Detroit and Atlanta, and this is where we are now. Like, is that the sentence? Like, what happened?
No, I really am curious to see how they plan to rewrite history, because that's essentially what's trying to happen. People are trying to have.
Can we have come on a spaceship? I mean, like, why can't we have come?
If you read the Black Science, Black Science book, some people do believe that we came here on spaceships.
I mean, if we're rewriting history, I want us to have come down on the mothership with like Bootsy Collins and just let's just start from there. I don't see what the problem is. Let's just
okay. Here, next topic.
I mean, we could.
So basically, you're saying, since we're making things up.
I mean, since we're making things up, since Rosa Parks wasn't sitting on the back of the bus, can she have come in on, like, I don't know, a white horse with King Arthur, and maybe she also landed on Plymouth Rock? I mean, let's just go ham with the revisionist history I can't.
It's very interesting. So I'm going to wait and see if anybody would love to come on and talk about that. And this is for people who do not, because I can find 50 people right now who would talk about why it's important, right? But I really would love to know what people feel who don't agree with it being taught, and what the what they're, because some people are like really angry and they believe that this is like this whole agenda, and I'm saying, what agenda? Like, what is happening? So I just and I don't understand it. I'm trying to figure out, and it seems like if you believe that, it's coupled with this whole ball of beliefs, right? Everything is like all together. So if you believe in one thing, you have to believe in the other with some groups right now, and it's like it's like
the exclusionary nature of it. Like I said, so we're not talking about the Trail of Tears. We're not talking about General Custer and his utter defeat. We're just not talking about anything else. Or are we just?
That's what I don't. That's the part I don't understand, because I'm, like I said, I'm speculating. I don't know what people don't agree with. They just say no critical race theory, and I'm like, that's so broad. What does that mean? What are you talking about?
Talking about Japanese Americans in concentration camps on American soil? Like, why is that not making you uncomfortable as well? I don't.
It's Obama's fault. It's Obama's fault. So if he would have never became.
Good night, Aaron. See, good night again. good night again.
Listen, and I'm just gonna make this very. Obama was not even one of my favorites. Bless his heart. He's like one of my favorites, but it's just so funny because anytime something that comes up about Black people, people say it was Obama, and I'm like, what does Obama have to do? So it's just interesting what people say and what they revert to. So anyway, yeah. So I know we talked about Whoopi a little bit. We talked about Joe, and like I said, I know with Joe, they took off, I think like 100 something, 115, 150, something like that, episodes where which is a lot. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of episodes have said that. So I mean,
again, this is my silliness. Who was in charge of going back and scanning for N-words in those episodes?
Well, with technology, you just have to type things in and it just pops up. So So let me ask you this though, because I know this is also something that people talk about. Is there a difference between ending in the A and the hard R?
No, absolutely not. No, it's like if you spell the D word, the D slur for lesbians with an I or a Y, it's still a slur. Yeah. For me, it's just, you can't say either. Just don't say it. It doesn't matter how you spell it.
Some people say that, when you use the A, it's a term of endearment. And then some people say when you use
these are the same people that say calling a woman a female dog if you're her friend is a term of endearment. My friends, they never called me that. We won't be friends anymore if you call me that. I suggest you stop being my friend if I call you that. Mm-hmm. Like, use my name. Just like, why is that? That's a term of endearment. Friend, darling, honey. Those are terms of endearment.
Mm-hmm. Honey poo.
This is not anything.
Yeah. I just wonder because I've been reading a lot of things and people are really upset about this. And I think with NDIRE, hers was more so. I mean, it was that included, but it was also about royalties and the money that he was getting paid as a in comparison to Black artists. And they were talking about how and they did the numbers like that. Black artists actually were the highest percentage of their revenue for Spotify was Black artists. I mean, we know. I mean, again, throughout history, that a lot of people have, mimicked Black culture, right? I mean, I just read an article the other day about even on TikTok how a lot of the non-Black artists have made so much money using
off of dances that were created by Black artists and Black creators who never even got I don't know if you remember the whole Jimmy Fallon, whichever one it was, because he brought on these big TikTok stars who were doing the Renegade Challenge. That wasn't even her dance. He never brought the little Black created.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, there was a month long. I don't even know if it's still going on. I think they finally just gave where Black creators had stopped putting anything on TikTok until they got paid the way they should have. Because I'll make a dance, and then someone from suburbia will do it, and you're giving them royalties and endorsements. Like there's a
Well, and
definite.
that was my point. That was my point in saying that was India Iree's, from what I heard, was part of her issue too, was that Black artists were not getting, I mean, nowhere near what he was getting paid as far as royalties for his stuff on
like 0.0003%, like
yes, of a penny, yes,
like, what?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, so I get that. So I get why she wanted to pull her music, and I liked what she said though. I liked what she said. India Arie said, I'm not really into cancel culture. Y'all don't have to cancel him. Just take my stuff out. Like, I don't want to be a part of it. And I like how she said that, because she's like, I can't control him. I can't control y'all. This is your platform in regards to Spotify. But she said she wants to take her stuff off of it. She doesn't want to be part of it. So I salute her for that. And also, she said it's been a struggle. Like it's been a struggle getting her music off. You know how it goes within the industry. But
I'm sure that they're gaslighting her and saying it'll take longer than it should, because that's money in their pocket.
Yeah. Well, Ken, me and you could talk all night about this, about this stuff, because I just found it interesting. I mean, I'm watching stuff about Whoopi, and I'm like, oh, Whoopi,
and it's probably completely off topic, but when you talk about, like, her stage name is Whoopi Goldberg, like, I don't think she meant it to be malicious. Like, I think, I think obviously there's some sort of recognition and respect there for those people in that. I could be overthinking it.
But we also know Whoopi is always pushed. She's always pushed the limit. I mean, remember when she dated Ted?
We're talking about if you're talking about the blackface at the I don't want to talk about that.
She's always pushed the limits. So I mean, it's like, but in this particular instance, I really don't think that it was like that. I don't. And then of course, people are upset because Meghan McCain has been on there for years. I mean, she's not anymore, but she says all kind of stuff. Megan says all kind of stuff.
All kinds of wild stuff. I mean, there's a legitimate point in that. Like, there's definitely, it appears to be a bit of a double standard. But here's the thing. Like I said, unfortunately, there are certain minority groups that are a bit more feared and respected than others, and you just can't talk about them any kind of way. And
we also, again, I want to point out, and I'm, I don't like to toot my own horn, but she did advocate for cancel culture. I mean, she's been advocating for it for some time now, and now she's feeling it, and she don't like how it feels. But again, I'm not saying if it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that, sometimes you have to be careful, because things do come back, right? Like, you can't just want it for one group and not for another. I mean, cancel culture is across the board right now. And yeah. And of course, like with Joe, he said that it was sound bites and taken out of context because he was talking about this, that, and the other. But I mean, because did you hear the comment he made about the Planet of the Apes?
Okay, that I don't know what context you could have put that particular statement in. It was just ridiculous.
He did say that in context or out of context, it was wrong. And what he said was that he got dropped off. Him and his friends, they wanted to go see the movie. They got dropped. They were high. People are always either under the influence when they do these things. But he said he was high, and that they got dropped off by Uber or whatever, and in this different type of part of town where it was predominantly Black. And he said they wanted to go see the Planet of the Apes, and then they realized they were in the Planet of the Apes, and they were in Africa. That was what he said, which is always so funny to me when people say in Africa, because there's so many different types of people that live in Africa. So I never understand when people equate those things together. But anyway,
that's just such an ignorant statement, because you're likening a whole continent to your stereotypical. I mean, there are cities in Africa that are larger 5 times or more than New York City, and more cosmopolitan. So that's your insignificant small world view. And what you said, in or out of context, was ridiculous, ignorant, and offensive. That statement was just ridiculous.
He did admit to that. He did say that. And I'm laughing only because I just can't even believe where he would think that would not be perceived that way. Like, when you say that you went into Planet of the Apes, you are literally saying, and then there were people commenting saying, where
my question is, why okay, here's the deeper part of that statement. You say your friends and yourself got high and got an Uber to drop you off in an urban neighborhood. What was this, sightseeing? You thought this was going to
No,
the zoo? Because
apparently he said he wanted to go see the movie, and they just took him to. I guess the person picked a random movie theater. I'm not sure because he
don't
just
buy that. I think this was their idea of some like thrill seeking field trip. Because here's the thing, as a black woman, I'm sure you understand the term sundowner town. I've never had any desire to get high, number one, or to get inebriated and have the Uber drop me off in the sundowner town. I don't need that kind of
Oh,
thrill.
so let's say this. Let me just say this. If you know Joe Rogan, he does very, and I'm just saying, like, you and him are very different. He does a lot of thrill seeking things. So maybe that was part of his thrill seeking. But nevertheless, what he said was totally inappropriate. And it was just very interesting because he did liken the two, and then he said that he went on to say in the conversation that he enjoyed himself, it was a fun time, blah 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 blah, yada yada yada. But saying that was totally inappropriate. So it's just been interesting. I'm saying they doing all this during Black History Month. Like, what is happening? Can we just celebrate?
She said, yo, wait. She said, get a racism wait till March. That's funny.
We just have these 28 days of peace.
She said, can we just put a pause on the ridiculous nature of your hatred?
Ken, I'm letting you go. I'm getting off the line with you. This has been fun. Because as time goes on, it gets later and later. I get sillier and sillier because it's closer to like a little child. And but no, I appreciate the conversation because, like I said, I really enjoy these type of things. Just kind of like gauging what people feel about different stuff that's going on. And again, I don't usually talk about stuff that goes on within like tabloid stuff or whatever. It's not really my thing. But these particular topics were kind of I was curious about. So yeah.
No. I always love being on your show. It's a blast because you never know what we're going to get into. But I think this, like you said, was a topic that needed to be discussed.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
I'm just glad to be here.
Thank you. And again, I'm gonna throw it out there. Anybody that wants to talk about critical race theory and why you don't think it should be something that is taught in
I'm
school.
going to highly request that you have a dial-in number that day so I can call in because I got questions.
We that is something that is possible, but yeah, or you can come on and we may have a whole discussion. I mean, I have no problem with that. Like I said, I mean, anybody knows me knows I welcome different points of views because it's the world we live in, and we don't always have to agree and we won't always agree. So we have to like be honest about that. But anyway, you have a beautiful night. I really do appreciate you, my friend, for coming on here and speaking with me. And we will have many, many more times. As I I'm taking a break right now, from a lot of online conversations because, like I said, we're doing a lot of stuff, working on things. So I've just been really putting my energy there. So it's just a little bit of a shift right now. And then we're going to shift back because I do have a couple conversations lined up that I want to have with different people of different points of view. So we are coming back. But tonight was just a fun time with my friend to talk about some things. So I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. You guys have a good night. Night, Aaron.
All right, bye.